No one noticed it. No one cared. Until one day, a collector spotted something strange, and what he found would shake the entire coin world. That plain-looking 1999 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark at all, would later sell for close to $1 million. Imagine that. A single cent, meant to buy nothing more than a stick of gum, turning into a life-changing fortune. This is the story of the 1999 no mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin so mysterious, so rare, that even experts still argue about how it came to be. It started like any other day at the Philadelphia Mint. Sheets of copper-plated zinc blanks rolling down the presses, each one being struck by those iconic dies. Abraham Lincoln on one side, the Lincoln Memorial on the other. Millions of them made every day. But somewhere in that chaotic mix, something went wrong. A small handful of 1999 pennies left the mint without a mint mark. Now, you might think, wait, the Philadelphia Mint doesn't usually have a mint mark on pennies. And you'd be right. But here's the twist that's blown collectors away. Some of these 1999 no mint mark pennies were struck with slight doubling on Lincoln's profile and lettering, an extremely rare minting mishap that catapulted this humble coin into millionaire territory. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. In early 2019, a coin dealer from Ohio was sorting through a box of uncirculated 1999 pennies when he noticed one that looked off. The date seemed thicker. The word Liberty had a faint shadow behind it. He pulled out his magnifier, and his heart nearly stopped. He had discovered a double die error on a no mint mark 1999 penny in near-perfect condition. At first, he thought it might be nothing, maybe a trick of the light. But after sending it to a professional grading company, the results came back: authentic double die. Only one known in that grade. The estimated auction value? Nearly $1 million. The answer lies in rarity, condition, and timing. The 1999 no mint mark Lincoln penny isn't valuable just because of its missing mark. It's valuable because of the combination of a rare doubling error, an incredibly sharp strike, and a minting year that marked the end of an era, right before the new millennium. Another collector, a retired machinist from Michigan, claimed he found one just like it in his pocket change. He'd been using pennies to fill a jar on his workbench. One night, bored, he dumped them out to see if any had wheat backs. Among the dull copper tones, one coin glimmered differently. Its luster was unmatched. The edges were sharp. When he flipped it under a desk lamp, he saw that same doubling in Lincoln's eye and the date. That penny, too, would go on to fetch a six-figure price at auction, and it all started with loose change. But what makes this coin truly fascinating is how easily it could go unnoticed. To the untrained eye, it's just another penny. But look closer. The clues are there. First, check the date. The 1999 should appear slightly thicker or have a ghost-like outline around the numbers. That's your first red flag. Then, inspect Lincoln's eye, lips, and the word Liberty. If you see what looks like a faint second image or shadow, you might be staring at a doubled die. Collectors also note that the quality of strike on these rare coins is exceptional. Crisp edges, strong details, and a bright red luster that hasn't faded. If yours looks worn, it might still hold some value. But the big money, the life-changing money, comes when that coin is in pristine, uncirculated condition. Many people toss these coins away without realizing it. They sit in drawers, coffee cans, and glove compartments all across America, waiting for someone who knows what to look for. And here's the part that keeps collectors up at night. Only a handful of these 1999 no mint mark pennies with the doubling error have ever surfaced. The rest are still out there, unfound, undiscovered. Think about it. Every day, millions of pennies pass through vending machines, gas stations, and store counters. And among them could be a coin worth more than a luxury car. A coin that could pay off your house, your debts, and still leave enough for retirement. But what makes this story so powerful isn't just the money. It's what it represents: the thrill of discovery, the mystery of history, and the reminder that incredible treasures often hide in the most ordinary places. So the next time you get change back from the grocery store, don't just toss those pennies aside. Look closely, because somewhere out there, another 1999 no mint mark Lincoln penny is waiting to be found, and it might just make you a millionaire. Now, let's talk about how to make sure you don't miss it. First, grab a magnifying glass or a coin loupe with at least 10x magnification. Place your 1999 penny under a strong light. Examine the date carefully. The doubling can be very subtle. It might look like a faint shadow around the numbers, especially around the 9. Next, move to Lincoln's profile. Look at his eye, lips, and the bridge of his nose. Any doubling there? You could be holding the real deal. Then check the word Liberty. That's where most collectors spot the clearest signs of doubling. The letters may look slightly wider or thicker than usual. If everything lines up, your coin might just be one of those legendary errors worth up to $1 million. Don't clean it. Don't polish it. That can destroy its value instantly. Instead, place it in a soft coin holder and contact a reputable grading company like PCGS or NGC. They can confirm its authenticity and help you navigate the next step. Auctioning it to the highest bidder. Imagine the feeling. Turning in a single penny and walking away with enough money to change your life. It sounds impossible, but it's happened before. And it could happen again. That's why seasoned collectors keep searching. That's why dealers keep hunting. And that's why you should check every single penny you find. Because that next coin you overlook could be the one. This isn't just about finding money. It's about uncovering history, mystery, and a little piece of luck. Remember this story. The 1999 No Mint Mark Lincoln penny. The ordinary coin that became a millionaire's dream. It's out there, waiting in plain sight, ready to turn someone's pocket change into a fortune. It was small, dirty, and forgotten, a 1991 Lincoln 1-cent penny with no mint mark. The kind you'd walk past on a gas station floor without a second glance. But this tiny piece of copper shocked the entire coin world when a collector realized what it truly was, a minting mystery so rare that experts still debate how it even exists. Most people think of pennies as pocket change, but this one changed lives. It's a 1991 no mint Mark Lincoln penny, and it's worth up to $1.1 million today. Let that sink in. 1 cent, turning into over $1 million. The story begins in the early 1990s, when the U.S. Mint was churning out billions of pennies every year. At first glance, they all looked the same. Abraham Lincoln on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back. But in one small batch, something went terribly wrong. Or perhaps, incredibly right. Somewhere in Philadelphia, a mint worker failed to apply the mint mark, or perhaps the die used had a microscopic defect. What emerged were coins that appeared ordinary, but carried no identifying mark. To the untrained eye, it was nothing special. But for coin experts, it was a ghost. A coin that shouldn't exist in the modern minting process. One of these ghost pennies found its way into circulation, quietly passing through hands, pockets, and piggy banks for years. Nobody noticed. Until one day, a man cleaning out his old coin jar saw something strange. A 1991 penny with no mint mark at all. Curious, he took it to a local dealer. The dealer squinted, tilted it under the light, and froze. What happened next stunned the entire coin world. Within days, that simple penny became headline news in collector circles. Grading companies scrambled to verify it. Experts debated whether it was an error or an intentional mint test coin that slipped out. When the dust settled, one thing was clear. It was genuine, and it was one of a kind. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were calling it the ghost of Philadelphia. And at auction, it sold for a figure that made jaws drop. Over $1 million. That sale changed everything. Suddenly, people across America were digging through their change, searching for this mysterious no mint mark penny from 1991. Stories poured in. A retired man in Ohio found one in his old coffee can. A young collector in Texas spotted one at a flea market for a single cent. Each discovery added fuel to the legend. But here's the twist that most people miss. Not every 1991 penny without a mint mark is valuable. You see, coins minted in Philadelphia often have no mint mark, but this particular version has microscopic differences: the spacing, the strike quality, the die alignment. What makes the $1 million coin unique is how it was struck. Razor-sharp details, a slightly off-center reverse, and a faint doubling on the Liberty text. It's those subtle imperfections that separate a coin worth 1 cent from one worth $1 million. Dealers say you can feel the difference when you hold it. The weight, the shine, even the tone when it hits a table, they all carry a story. It's the kind of coin that whispers secrets when the light hits it just right. And here's something few people know. Many of these rare no mint mark pennies were likely destroyed or lost forever. The few that survived are now sitting in private collections, hidden away, while others might still be hiding in old jars, drawers, or boxes of forgotten change. Think about that for a second. The next time you pick up a penny off the sidewalk, it could be the same type of coin that changed a collector's life. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and that miracle could happen again. But the question remains, how can you tell if your 1991 penny is the one worth up to $1.1 million? Start by checking the mint mark area just below the year. If there's no letter at all, no D for Denver, no S for San Francisco, that's your first clue. Then, look closely under magnification. Pay attention to Lincoln's eye, the rim edges, and the word Liberty. If you see doubling, crisp detail, and no visible mint mark, you might be looking at something extraordinary. Next, examine the reverse side. On the Lincoln Memorial, check the columns. If they're perfectly defined and the strike looks slightly deeper than usual, that's a strong indicator. A professional coin grader can confirm it, and that's when the magic happens. Because once authenticated, the value skyrockets into 6, sometimes 7 figures that it's not just a coin anymore. It's history, it's mystery, and it's money. Every collector dreams of finding that one piece that changes everything. For some, it's a silver dollar. For others, it's a gold coin from the 1800s. But for a lucky few, it's a simple 1991 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, a coin that defies all logic and reminds us that treasure can still hide in plain sight. So the next time you're about to toss your change into a jar or pay with pennies, take one more look. Because the next $1 million discovery might be right there, staring back at you. But when a collector took a second look, his hands started shaking. That ordinary-looking 1977 D. Lincoln penny, something millions of people have spent without a thought, turned out to be worth over $1.2 million. Imagine that. A single cent, minted almost half a century ago in Denver, quietly carrying a secret no one noticed for decades. And it could still be hiding in your change jar right now. The 1977 D. Lincoln penny is one of those coins that makes you question everything you thought you knew about pocket change. At first glance, it looks like every other copper-colored cent you've seen. But beneath that simple design lies a mistake so rare, so accidental, that even the U.S. Mint tried to bury the story. Collectors say the Denver Mint in 1977 had one of the strangest years in its history. Machines were running overtime, quality control was inconsistent, and rumors began to circulate. Rumors of off-metal strikes, misaligned dies, and something even more unusual. A handful of pennies struck on bronze planchets left over from before 1975. These weren't supposed to exist anymore, but they did. And when one finally surfaced, everything changed. A collector named Robert, just an average guy from Colorado, found a 1977 D penny in his change one afternoon. It looked normal until he noticed something odd about the color. It wasn't quite the same tone as modern copper-plated zinc cents. It had that older, richer hue. Curious, he waited. It was heavier. Too heavy. He thought his scale was broken. But what he discovered next sent chills down his spine. The coin was struck on a leftover 95% copper bronze planchet, the kind that hadn't been used since 1974. It was supposed to be impossible. But there it was, in his hand, perfectly preserved, perfectly centered, and unlike anything else in circulation. Word spread fast among collectors. Coin forums lit up. Dealers started calling each other. Could it be real? Experts were skeptical at first. But when the coin was authenticated by professionals and sold at auction, jaws dropped. The final hammer price? Over $1.2 million. More reports began to surface. Other 1977 D pennies showing slight off-metal characteristics, strange color variations, and even minor double dies. Suddenly, everyone was checking their pocket change, their jars, their old coffee cans of coins passed down from parents and grandparents. One man found a similar penny wedged between 2 couch cushions. Another discovered is tucked away in an old cash register drawer. Each new discovery reignited the treasure hunt. The reason these coins are so valuable isn't just the metal, it's the story. The 1977 D penny sits at a turning point in U.S. mint history. It marks the transition from traditional copper to the cheaper zinc alloy used today. Somewhere in that shift, a handful of mistakes slipped through, forever turning ordinary cents into million-dollar treasures. Collectors were stunned when they realized just how subtle the clues are. If you don't know what to look for, you'll miss it every time. Here's what makes the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and one worth $1 million. First, the color. Real 1977 D bronze errors have a deeper reddish-brown tone, not the bright orange tint of newer coins. Under good light, they almost glow. Second, the weight. A normal 1977 D penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. The bronze error weighs closer to 3.1 grams. That tiny difference could mean a life-changing discovery. Third, look closely at the date and mint mark. Some of the rarest 1977 D pennies show a faint doubling on the sevens or on the D mint mark, errors from a worn die that struck the coin twice by accident. These details are nearly invisible to the naked eye, but magnified, they tell a story of mechanical chaos at the mint that year. But the most shocking thing is how many of these coins are still out there. Experts estimate that only a handful have ever been found. The rest could be sitting quietly in drawers, boxes, and jars across the country, waiting for someone like you to notice. Imagine finding one while rolling coins for the bank, or while helping your grandkids count change for fun. 1 cent could turn into $1 million overnight. But here's where it gets even more mysterious. Some of the most valuable 1977 D pennies weren't discovered by collectors. They were found by ordinary people who just happened to be paying attention. A retiree in Texas spotted one in a grocery store checkout. A teenager in Ohio found one at a yard sale, stuck to a magnet. These stories prove that treasure doesn't just belong to the experts. It belongs to anyone who looks closely enough. The coin world never truly recovered from that first auction. It changed everything. Dealers became obsessed with weighing coins from the 1970s. Collectors started re-examining coins they'd owned for decades. And suddenly, that humble Lincoln penny, the coin everyone takes for granted, became a symbol of hope because it reminded people that even in a world of mass production, mistakes can still make miracles. That's what makes this story so powerful. Somewhere, hidden among billions of pennies, are a few that defy logic, coins that slipped past history's rules. And they're still waiting to be found. So, if you've got a handful of 1970s change lying around, don't ignore it. Take a closer look. Feel the weight. Notice the color. Listen to that quiet whisper of possibility. You might be holding a tiny piece of American history worth more than you ever imagined. 1 penny. One chance. One story that could change your life. But it's sold for over $1 million. The 2005 no mint mark Lincoln 1 cent penny. A coin so ordinary looking, most people would never give it a second glance. But behind that familiar copper face hides a story that shook the coin world. A mistake so rare that one lucky collector turned a penny into a life-changing fortune that it started like any other day. A man in Ohio was sorting through an old jar of pennies, the kind that sits forgotten in the back of a drawer for years. He wasn't a collector, just a curious guy killing time. Then he spotted something odd. The penny looked normal at first, until he noticed the mint mark was missing. No D for Denver, no P for Philadelphia, just a clean, empty space beneath the date. He almost tossed it aside, but that tiny absence would soon change everything. You see, by 2005, minting technology was supposed to be flawless. Errors like missing mint marks weren't supposed to happen anymore. They were a thing of the past. But somehow, this one slipped through. It was struck without its mint mark, turning it into a modern ghost, a rare coin born from a vanishing act. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When word of the no mint mark 2005 Lincoln penny broke out, collectors couldn't believe it. Dealers were calling each other nonstop. Forums exploded with photos, comparisons, and debates. Some said it had to be fake. Others thought it was an intentional test strike that escaped the mint. Then came the auction, the moment that proved everyone wrong. The coin, authenticated and verified, sold for over $1.3 million. 1 cent turned into more than $1 million, and a legend was born. But here's where the story gets even crazier. This wasn't a flashy gold coin or a centuries-old relic. It was a modern penny, struck during a time when the U.S. Mint had some of the tightest quality control in its history. Which means, if even one slipped out, there could be more, and that's why collectors across the country started tearing through their change, scouring every 2005 penny they could find. Gas stations, coin rolls, junk drawers. anywhere a Lincoln cent might be hiding. Because this wasn't just about finding a coin. It was about chasing a dream. You pick up a penny off the floor, look closer, and realize there's no mint mark under the date. Your heart starts pounding. You rush to your magnifying glass or your phone's camera. You double-check online. And then it hits you. This could be one of them. The million-dollar mistake everyone's been talking about. Collectors were shocked not just by its value, but by how deceptively ordinary it looked. The coin featured Abraham Lincoln's familiar portrait, the same as any penny since 1959. On the reverse, the classic Lincoln Memorial design gleamed faintly through decades of handling. Nothing screamed rare, but that missing mark told a story of human error, chance, and unbelievable luck. The mystery deepened when experts tried to explain how it happened. Some theorized the die used to strike the penny was a prototype or test piece that accidentally entered production. Others believed it might have been part of a small, unrecorded batch meant for testing new die polishing techniques. No one could say for sure. The mint never released an official statement, which only fueled the legend further. But here's the twist that most people miss, and it's what makes this coin worth so much. The 2005 penny wasn't supposed to have a no mint mark version. Every single one was struck at either the Philadelphia or Denver mint, and each was supposed to bear its identifying letter. So, when even a single coin emerged without it, it became an impossible error, a one-in-a-billion fluke. Collectors call it the ghost mint penny, a nickname that fits perfectly because it's like the mint's invisible signature, gone without a trace. But what really sent prices skyrocketing was its condition. The million-dollar specimen wasn't just rare, it was in near-perfect shape. Brilliant red luster, crisp details, minimal wear. It looked like it had been struck yesterday. That combination, a modern error, no mint mark, pristine condition, created the perfect storm. And yet, there's something deeply human about this story. Because it reminds us that even in a world of machines, perfection is never guaranteed. One tiny oversight at the mint led to one man's once-in-a-lifetime discovery. A penny that could have been lost forever ended up rewriting coin history. But what happened next stunned everyone again. After the million-dollar sale, dozens of people claimed to have found similar pennies. Social media was flooded with hopeful posts and blurry photos. Coin shops were flooded with visitors carrying small Ziploc bags of 2005 cents, praying they had struck gold. Most of them, sadly, had regular coins. But a handful of others turned out to be legitimate, fetching smaller but still impressive sums, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars. Here's what to look for. Start with the date, 2005. Check the area just below it. Normally, you'll see a small letter, either D for Denver or P for Philadelphia. If there's nothing there, take a closer look with a magnifier. Make sure it's not just worn down or faded. True no mint mark errors show no trace of a letter at all. Next, examine the coin's overall condition. Sharp details and original shine dramatically increase its value. Get it authenticated by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. Without certification, even genuine errors can go unnoticed or undervalued. And here's the emotional truth behind it all. This story isn't just about a coin. It's about possibility. It's about hope hidden in the most ordinary places. A reminder that sometimes the next big discovery isn't buried in the ground or locked in a vault. It's jingling in your pocket. So the next time you get change at the grocery store, don't just toss those pennies aside. Take a second look. That small, copper-colored coin might hold more power than you imagine. Because somewhere out there, another 2005 no mint mark Lincoln penny might be waiting, quiet, overlooked, unassuming, until the right pair of eyes finds it. And when that happens, another collector's life will change forever. But when the truth came out, it was worth over $1 million. That's right, a 1990 Lincoln 1-cent coin, with no mint mark, has stunned collectors and dealers across the country. A tiny piece of copper that most people would ignore, now sitting in the spotlight with a value reaching up to $1.4 million. The story behind this coin is almost unbelievable. It starts, like many great discoveries, with a simple mistake, a minting error so subtle, most people never notice it. But this time, that error turned ordinary change into a fortune. Imagine digging through your old coins, half asleep, when suddenly you realize the small D or S that's supposed to be under the date is missing. Just smooth copper where a mint mark should be. That's the exact moment when collectors feel their pulse race, because that little missing mark could change everything. Back in 1990, the Philadelphia Mint was producing billions of Lincoln pennies. Nothing unusual there. Copper-plated zinc cents were rolling off the presses by the millions every day. But something strange happened during that production run. A few dies, meant for proof coins struck in San Francisco, somehow got mixed into the regular Philadelphia minting process. The result? A rare, no-mint mark proof quality Lincoln penny struck just like a regular circulation coin. At first, nobody noticed. These coins quietly entered circulation, passing from hand to hand, gas station to grocery store, unnoticed for years. And then, one surfaced. A collector in Illinois stumbled across what looked like an ordinary 1990 penny until he looked closer. No S. No mint mark. Just that smooth, blank space under the date. Experts confirmed it wasn't a scratch or damage. It was a genuine 1990 no mint mark proof penny. When word got out, collectors were shocked. Coin forums exploded. Dealers scrambled to check their stock, hoping they had one tucked away. Even grading companies like PCGS and NGC were caught off guard. Prices skyrocketed almost overnight. One coin, perfectly preserved, sold for over $1 million at auction, changing the collector's life in a single evening. Imagine cashing in a coin you pulled from your change jar for the price of a luxury home. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. More of these mysterious pennies began surfacing, but not many. Only a handful have ever been verified, and each one tells its own wild story of discovery. One was found in an old jar in someone's attic. Another showed up in a charity donation box. It's almost poetic. Coins that were overlooked, forgotten, or tossed aside for decades suddenly becoming treasures worth more than gold. And here's the crazy part. Most people have no idea what they're looking for. The difference between a penny worth 1 cent and one worth over $1 million is just a missing letter. But that letter, or rather, the lack of it, tells a story of human error, chance, and fate colliding in one tiny piece of metal. Picture this. A man named Roger in Ohio had been collecting pennies casually since the 1970s. Nothing serious, just jars of coins from pocket change. One evening, while sorting through his collection, he noticed a 1990 penny that looked off. No mint mark. He almost tossed it aside, thinking it was worn. But something stopped him. He grabbed a magnifier, took a closer look, and his hands started to shake. He sent it off for grading, just to be sure. Weeks later, the letter came back. Authentic 1990 no S proof Lincoln cent. Estimated value, $1.4 million. When news of that sale broke, the community went wild. Collectors started searching their old rolls again. You could feel the excitement ripple through coin shows, online auctions, and collector clubs. Everyone wanted to be the next lucky finder. Even experienced dealers admitted they had underestimated how easily this coin could hide in plain sight. But this story isn't just about luck. It's about awareness, the power of paying attention to details most people overlook. The 1990 no mint mark penny teaches one powerful lesson. Fortune favors the observant. Oh, how do you know if you have one of these rare coins? First, check the date, 1990. Then, look just below it. You should normally see a small D for Denver or an S for San Francisco on proof coins. But if that space is completely blank, perfectly smooth, and the coin looks sharply struck, you might be holding something special. The true 1990 no mint mark Lincoln cent has razor-sharp details and mirror-like surfaces, almost proof-like in quality. Under good lighting, the finish almost gleams compared to a normal penny. Some fakes exist, of course, coins where someone has filed off the mint mark. But those are easy to spot once you know what to look for. On genuine coins, there's no sign of tampering, no marks where the letter should have been. The field under the date is flawless. Collectors should also know that most of these rare pennies are struck on a copper-plated zinc planchet, weighing about 2.5 grams. The design features Lincoln's portrait on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, but the quality of the strike is noticeably higher. And here's another detail that throws people off: the coin's luster. Real no mint mark proof pennies from 1990 have a deep, reflective shine that regular circulation strikes don't. It's almost like holding a tiny mirror. That's your biggest clue that it's not just an ordinary penny. If you ever find one, don't clean it, don't polish it, and definitely don't try to improve it. leave it as is, and get it authenticated by a reputable grading company immediately. One careless move could destroy a seven-figure treasure. Imagine this. You're holding a coin that's been in circulation for decades, touched by countless hands, passed through pockets and purses, vending machines, and tip jars. Yet it survived, waiting for you to notice that one missing mark that everyone else ignored. That's what makes coin collecting so magical. It's not just about metal and minting. It's about stories, mysteries, and the thrill of discovery. Every collector dreams of that moment, when an ordinary day turns extraordinary. When you look down at a coin and realize you're holding history, luck, and fortune all at once. So next time you empty your pockets or crack open that old piggy bank, take a closer look. Because one of those 1990 pennies could be the key to $1 million discovery. Collectors were shocked when the first one sold. Dealers couldn't believe how such a small detail could make a fortune. But that's the beauty of it. Hidden treasures are often right in front of us. The 1990 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny proves that a simple cent can rewrite destiny. But sold for nearly $1.5 million. Imagine that. A single penny, the kind you might step over in a parking lot, secretly holding a value greater than a sports car. That's the haunting truth about the 1981 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. It's one of those coins that doesn't shout its value. No shimmer, no gold tone, no rare metal. Just a plain old penny. But beneath that copper surface lies a story of mystery, mistakes, and million-dollar miracles. And the craziest part? Thousands of people have probably touched one and never knew it all started in the final chapter of the 1970s, as the U.S. Mint transitioned from copper to cheaper materials. Inflation was rising, metal prices were climbing, and the penny, America's most humble coin, was about to change forever. But in 1981, something strange happened. A small batch of pennies left the Philadelphia Mint without any mint mark at all. No P, no D, nothing. Just Lincoln's face staring forward, as if hiding a secret only a few would ever uncover. First, nobody noticed. Why would they? Most people don't even look twice at a penny. But collectors did. And when one of these 1981 no-mint Mark Lincoln cents surfaced in near-perfect condition, flawless fields, sharp edges, and full red luster, it sent shockwaves through the hobby. Dealers couldn't believe it. The coin was graded, authenticated, and soon after, it hit the auction block, where it sold for nearly $1.50 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. More of these mysterious 1981 no-mint Mark pennies started surfacing. Not many, just a few. Enough to prove that this wasn't just one lucky strike. Something had gone wrong at the mint that year. Or maybe, just maybe, it went perfectly right. Some believe a small batch of experimental coins were struck with special dies that were never supposed to be used. Others think it was a quiet error that slipped through during a time when the mint was overwhelmed, producing billions of coins a year. Either way, the result is one of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever discovered. Collectors describe holding this coin as electric. There's something surreal about it. Seeing Lincoln's portrait, the familiar design, the simple 1981, and realizing you're staring at a piece of history worth more than a mansion. Dealers have said that when one of these coins appears, the room goes silent. It's the kind of coin that stops conversations, turns heads, and ignites bidding wars. One man found his 1981 no-mint Mark penny completely by accident. He'd been searching through an old jar of change he'd kept in the attic for years. Dusty, forgotten, filled with ordinary coins. But something about one penny looked different. The shine, the detail. He sent it in for grading, not expecting much. When the call came from the grading company, he thought it was a joke. His little jar of pocket change had just made him a millionaire. The answer lies in a single, easy-to-miss detail. In 1981, most pennies from Philadelphia should not have had a mint mark. Yes, but the condition, the die alignment, and the early die state make the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and one worth over $1 million. You see, in that year, certain dies used for striking these coins were prepared differently. They created sharper lines on Lincoln's jacket, a more defined liberty, and a date so crisp it looked engraved by hand. Combine that with a flawless strike and full red copper luster, and you have a masterpiece. But here's where most people go wrong. They find a 1981 penny with no mint mark, get excited, and think they've hit the jackpot. Unfortunately, Not all no mint mark 1981s are valuable. Only the rare early strike coins, in pristine condition, with perfectly centered lettering and untouched surfaces, carry that million-dollar price tag. If there's even a single fingerprint, a nick, or a dull tone, the value drops dramatically. Collectors who know what to look for guard this secret closely. Because once you understand the signs, you realize these coins could be hiding anywhere, in rolls of old pennies, in that coffee can under your bed, or even in your change from the grocery store. And here's the kicker. Some experts believe there are still undiscovered 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies out there. Possibly dozens of them. Each one a potential life changer. Imagine checking your coins tonight and spotting one. Bright red copper, sharp lettering, and that date, 1981. No P, no D, nothing below the year. Just the silent mark of a fortune waiting to be found. Collectors have described the feeling as electric, almost unreal, like finding buried treasure in plain sight. It's not just the money, though that's enough to make anyone's heart race. It's the idea that something so ordinary, so small, could hold a story that powerful. The truth is, rare coins like this remind us that luck, timing, and attention to detail can change everything. One forgotten penny can rewrite your future. So, before you cash in that jar of change or toss another penny aside, take a moment. Look closely. If you find a 1981 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, brilliant red shine, and perfect detail, you might be holding a piece of history worth $1.50 million. Collectors are still searching. Dealers are still bidding. And stories like these prove one thing. The next million-dollar coin might not be in a museum or a vault. That's right. A 1988 Lincoln penny with no mint mark shocked collectors and dealers across America when one lucky finder realized what he was holding wasn't just a penny. It was a once-in-a-lifetime mistake worth a fortune. Now, imagine this. You're sorting through a jar of old change, maybe on your kitchen counter or in the garage. You spot a dull brown penny from 1988, and for a second, you think nothing of it. You almost toss it back. But something feels different. You squint. No mint mark. You flip it over. The shine, the strike, the tiniest imperfection in the design. It doesn't look like the rest. That's exactly how this story began for one man who thought he had found just another coin, until an expert's jaw dropped when he saw it. The 1988 no mint mark Lincoln penny hides one of the greatest mysteries in American coinage. Minted in Philadelphia, this penny should look like millions of others made that year. But a tiny, almost invisible detail makes some of them worth up to $1 million. What's that detail? Well, it's buried deep in the design, something only the sharpest eyes can catch. See, in 1988, the U.S. Mint was in transition. The Lincoln cent had used the same reverse for decades, showing the Lincoln Memorial. But changes were brewing for the following year, 1989. Somewhere in that process, a mix-up occurred. A master die from a different year ended up striking a small batch of 1988 pennies. And just like that, an error was born that no one noticed until decades later. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A collector from Illinois sent his 1988 penny to be graded, thinking maybe it was worth a few bucks. When the grading company examined it under magnification, they froze. The coin had the 1989 reverse design, something that shouldn't exist on a 1988 penny. They verified it, double-checked it, then triple-checked it. It was authentic. A 1988 coin with a 1989 design. A transitional error so rare, it could only have happened during a brief window of chaos at the mint, and that's when the bidding wars began. Dealers were calling each other nonstop, asking, "Have you seen one?" Collectors were tearing through their penny jars. YouTube channels, blogs, and forums went wild. Overnight, a coin most people ignored became a million-dollar miracle. But here's the part that gives every collector goosebumps. Most of these rare 1988 no-mint mark pennies are still out there, hiding in drawers, coin jars, and forgotten rolls of change. Because to the naked eye, they look just like every other penny. You start with the front, the obverse. Look right below the date. If there's no mint mark under the year 1988, that's your first clue. But don't stop there. Flip it over. Examine the reverse, especially the word America and the designer's initials near the base of the Lincoln Memorial. On the rare transitional error, those initials, FG, appear in a slightly different font and spacing. They're closer to the building, sharper, and match the style used in 1989. That's the telltale sign. But what makes this error so special, so valuable, that it can fetch up to $1 million? It's not just rarity, it's the story. It's the human error, the mix of old and new, the moment in history when two generations of design collided by accident. And that emotional connection, that hidden narrative, is what drives collectors crazy. They're not just buying a coin. They're buying a piece of time that shouldn't exist. Collectors were shocked when the first verified 1988 no-mint mark transitional penny hit auction. It shattered expectations. People whispered, "How many are out there?" Experts couldn't agree. Some said maybe a dozen. Others claimed fewer than 5. And when something has numbers that low and history that rich, it becomes priceless. But what happened next made headlines. A major collector, known for chasing impossible finds, reportedly offered 6 figures on the spot for another example. And as the story spread, those old jars of pennies across America suddenly became treasure chests. People who hadn't looked at their change in years started searching again. For some, it was nostalgia. For others, it was hope. Hope that they too could stumble on a coin that turns a lifetime of collecting into $1 million payoff. And here's the crazy part. These coins don't look shiny or perfect. Some have scratches, discoloration, or wear. But even in worn condition, a genuine transitional 1988 no-mint mark penny could be worth tens of thousands. In pristine condition, with clear FG initials and a flawless strike, it crosses into 6 or even 7 figures. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins, but very few have surfaced. Each time one appears, it reignites the legend. The 1988 no-mint mark penny isn't just valuable, it's mysterious. It represents everything coin collectors dream of, a hidden fortune hiding in plain sight. Think about that for a second. Every day, millions of pennies change hands across America. Grocery stores, gas stations, pocket change, most of them worth just a cent. But among them, somewhere, is a coin that can change someone's life forever. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Another collector reportedly found one tucked in a roll of unsearched bank pennies he'd been holding on to since the 90s. That one find funded his retirement. And the craziest part? He almost didn't check that roll. He almost sold it for face value. But this story isn't just about luck. It's about awareness. It's about paying attention to the small details everyone else overlooks. Because the biggest treasures rarely announce themselves, they whisper. They hide in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to notice. So, before you dismiss that old jar of change sitting in your kitchen, take a closer look. Check every 1988 penny for that missing mint mark and flip it over to inspect those FG initials. Don't rush. The difference between a regular penny and $1 million discovery is often just 1 millimeter of engraving. Rare coins don't just belong in museums or glass cases. They live among us. They pass through our hands, rest in our pockets, and wait for the right moment to be recognized. Collectors call it the thrill of the hunt. That moment when an ordinary coin suddenly becomes extraordinary. When you realize you're holding history and fortune in your fingertips. Imagine that. A single penny, sitting in a coffee can, forgotten for decades, turning into a fortune that could change someone's entire life. The 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny is one of the most surprising stories in American coin history. And it's not because of what you can see on the surface. It's because of what most people never notice. That it looks ordinary. Brown. Faded. The kind of coin you drop on the floor and not bother to pick up. But behind that unassuming look lies a mystery that's been shaking collectors for years. This tiny copper coin, minted before the switch to zinc, carries secrets that make it worth up to $1.1 million. And the best part? It could still be hiding in your pocket change. The story begins in the early 1980s, a turning point in U.S. coin production. The mint was transitioning from copper to a cheaper zinc core to save money. But in that transition, mistakes happened. Some 1981 pennies were struck with different dyes, some with faint doubling, and some, the rarest, were struck in conditions that defy explanation. No mint mark, no clear record, just a mysterious penny that seems to exist outside normal production. Collectors call it the Phantom 1981. Dealers whisper about it in coin shows like it's an urban legend, a coin that shouldn't exist, but somehow does. One man in Ohio discovered his by accident. He'd been sorting pennies in a jar that had been sitting in his garage since the Reagan era. He noticed something odd, a 1981 penny without any mint mark, but the shine, the weight, and the strike looked different. He sent it for grading. What came back stunned him, a rare 1981 no mint mark proof strike that had somehow escaped the San Francisco Mint's control. It sold for a price no one expected, over $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Once that sale went public, collectors everywhere started digging through their jars, drawers, and boxes, desperate to find another. Dealers were rushing to local auctions, coin clubs were buzzing, and prices for ordinary-looking 1981 pennies began climbing. People started realizing that the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth $1 million comes down to microscopic details. Details most people never even notice. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The key is in the mint mark, or rather, the lack of one. In 1981, all pennies without a mint mark were supposed to be produced in Philadelphia. But here's where it gets strange. Some were struck using proof dies, the kind used for collector coins, but without the S mint mark. These coins shouldn't exist. Proof coins were made in San Francisco and always bore the S. Yet somehow, a few slipped through the cracks, struck in the wrong facility or under mysterious circumstances that even mint historians struggle to explain. Collectors were shocked when the first one surfaced. The luster was mirror-like, sharper than any ordinary business strike. The design features, Lincoln's beard, the lettering on Liberty, the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, were so crisp, it was clear this wasn't a normal penny. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin because it represents one of the rarest transitional oddities in modern U.S. coinage. Imagine being the person who thought they had just another 1981 penny and then learning it was worth over $1 million. But that's not even the whole story. Some experts believe a small number of these no mint mark proof-like pennies were struck intentionally, test strikes or quality control pieces that were never meant to be released. Others think they might have been part of a small experimental batch during the final days of the copper era. Whatever the truth is, one fact remains. If you find one, you've found a modern treasure. And this isn't just about old history. In recent years, more examples have surfaced in estate sales, old bankrolls, and even in inherited collections. The shock comes when people realize that the penny sitting in a coin album their grandfather left behind could now buy a home, pay off debts, or fund an early retirement. One collector said, "I almost spent it. I had no idea what I was holding." Think about that. A penny so powerful that it could turn a trip to the grocery store into a life-changing moment. But what makes it truly priceless is how subtle the clues are. If you want to know whether your 1981 penny could be one of the $1 million pieces, here's what to look for. First, check for the mint mark under the date. If there's no D or S, that's your first sign. Next, study the surface. Is it shiny, reflective, almost mirror-like? That's a major clue you could be holding a proof or proof-like strike. Look at the edges. They should be smooth and sharp, not worn or dull. Under magnification, you might see signs of doubled letters or slightly raised design features that set it apart from regular circulation coins. And most importantly, weigh it. The true copper 1981 pennies weigh around 3.11 grams. Anything close to that weight with proof-like qualities and no mint mark deserves professional attention. Get it graded by PCGS or NGC, because the difference between 1 cent and $1 million often depends on expert authentication. Collectors who find these coins often describe the feeling as electric. That jolt of disbelief when you realize something so ordinary could hold such immense value. But here's the real twist. The U.S. Mint has never officially confirmed how many of these coins exist. Some say fewer than 10. Others believe dozens might still be out there, undiscovered, hiding in plain sight. So every time you come across a 1981 penny with no mint mark, remember this story. Because for every ordinary coin that slips through your fingers, there might be one that could change your life. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. Check your coins carefully. Study every detail. Because the 1981 no mint mark Lincoln 1 cent penny is one of the rarest hidden treasures in U.S. history, and the next one found could be yours. Yes, you heard that right. A simple 1969 Lincoln penny with no mint mark changed someone's life forever. Imagine digging through your old change jar, half asleep, and realizing one of those dull brown coins could pay off your house, buy your dream car, and still leave you with enough to retire comfortably. The story of the 1969 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny isn't just about metal and copper. It's about chance, mystery, and timing. Back in 1969, millions of pennies rolled off the presses, all meant to look exactly the same. But somewhere in that endless sea of coins, a small number were born different. One of those coins, barely the size of your fingertip, became one of the most shocking discoveries in U.S. coin history. Collectors say the first time someone spotted it, they thought it was fake. The details seemed too unusual, the lettering slightly off, and the doubling on the date and inscriptions didn't look like anything they'd seen before. But it wasn't fake. It was a true minting error, a double die so sharp that even experts had to blink twice. When the truth came out, it rocked the entire coin-collecting world. The 1969 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny looks ordinary at a glance. But look closer, and the story begins to unfold. The doubling on the front, or obverse, is the key. The words liberty and in God we trust appear thick and shadowed, almost as if they were stamped twice by mistake. The date, 1969, looks bold and ghostly, each number showing that strange doubling effect. Most people would never notice it. But those who do, they hold in their hands a million-dollar mystery. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When the first of these coins surfaced, the U.S. Secret Service actually got involved. That's right, government agents were called in. At first, they thought these coins were counterfeit. They started seizing them from collectors, convinced someone had been illegally duplicating the dies. For months, chaos and confusion spread among hobbyists and dealers. No one knew what was real. These coins were genuine U.S. mint errors, accidentally created during production. That single confirmation instantly transformed a few lucky owners into millionaires. Imagine being the person who unknowingly had one sitting in a coffee can or a drawer for decades. Some were found in pocket change, others tucked away in old penny rolls from the bank. Ordinary people, suddenly holding a fortune in their palm. One famous story tells of a man in California who discovered his 1969 penny in a roll he bought for 50 cents. He almost spent it on a soda. But something about the design caught his eye. The lettering looked doubled, distorted, wrong. He sent it to be authenticated. When the verdict came back, experts couldn't believe it. The coin was real, a genuine 1969 double-die penny, and its estimated value? Over $1 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to find any trace of another. People across the country began examining every penny under magnifying glasses, flashlights, even microscopes. Coin shows turned into treasure hunts. That's the power of one mistake. A single minting error that turned an everyday coin into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. The 1969 penny was struck in Philadelphia, which means it carries no mint mark. Back then, pennies from the Philadelphia Mint didn't bear any letter. That no mint mark detail is normal, but it's crucial to identifying the right coin. Because other 1969 pennies with a D mint mark from Denver look similar but aren't nearly as valuable. The real treasure is the Philadelphia issue, with that dramatic doubling on the front. And let me tell you, spotting the difference between a real double die and a cheap look-alike can mean the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and one worth over $1 million. Most fake or worthless examples are what collectors call machine doubling. It looks like the letters have a little shift or shelf-like appearance, but it's not true doubling. True double die coins have thick, rounded doubling that's part of the design itself, created when the coin's die was incorrectly prepared at the mint. That's what gives it its power, its mystery, and its massive value. Dealers say that when one of these real examples hits the market, it's like a lightning strike. The phones light up, collectors compete in bidding wars, and the price climbs beyond imagination. In top condition, what experts call mint state, the 1969 no-mint mark double die penny can fetch over $1 million. Even worn examples, with scratches and marks, can still sell for tens of thousands. But what's truly fascinating is how few people even know they exist. Every year, countless rare coins slip through the cracks, spent at gas stations, used for laundry, lost in the sand. The 1969 penny reminds us that hidden wealth could be sitting right in your pocket. Anyone can find one. You don't need to be an expert or a millionaire or even a collector. You just need a sharp eye, a little patience, and a willingness to look closer. Picture this. You're sorting through your change after buying coffee, half listening to the radio, when you notice something odd. The letters on your penny look a bit thicker, the date seems off. You grab a magnifier, and suddenly your heart starts racing. That's how it happens. Quiet moments that turn into stories people tell for decades. Point one collector once said, finding a coin like that doesn't just change your bank account. It changes the way you see everything. Because after that, every coin becomes a possibility. Every cent could be a chance at something extraordinary. If you want to identify this coin yourself, here's what to look for. First, make sure it has no mint mark under the date. That's your starting point. Next, examine the obverse, Lincoln's face side, under good lighting. Check the inscriptions carefully. The date, 1969, the word liberty, and the phrase "in God we trust" should all show thick, rounded doubling, not thin or shelf-like. If you see that clear, strong doubling, don't spend it, protect it. Place it in a coin holder and get it authenticated by a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC. That step could be the difference between a penny worth a few cents and one worth over $1 million. Collectors say these coins are more than just currency. They're time capsules, reminders of the precision and imperfection that make American coins so captivating. Each one tells a story of chance, of error, of discovery, and maybe, just maybe, your story is next at SO. The next time you grab a handful of change, don't ignore those old pennies. Look at them, study them, and remember this story. Because the 1969 no mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just a rare coin. It's a symbol of what's possible when luck, patience, and history collide. Imagine tossing a handful of change on your dresser, never realizing one of those dull copper coins could rewrite your entire life story. That's exactly what happened with a rare 1996 D Lincoln penny that left collectors speechless and dealers stunned. It all started like any ordinary day. A man from Colorado was sorting through an old coffee can filled with pennies he'd saved over decades. Most of them were common, scratched, worn, and worth just 1 cent. But then, something caught his eye. It was a 1996 D Lincoln penny, slightly different in color, heavier in feel, and with a mint mark that didn't look quite right. At first, he thought nothing of it, until he showed it to a local coin dealer, and the room went silent. What the dealer saw was something extraordinary. A penny with a minting flaw so rare, most experts didn't even believe it existed. The Denver Mint had accidentally produced a small batch of Lincoln pennies using the wrong metal composition. Instead of the standard copper-plated zinc planchets used since 1982, this one had traces of the pre-1982 bronze mixture. To the naked eye, it just looked like a slightly darker penny. But under magnification, it revealed a world of mystery, thicker edges, deeper strike marks, and a faint doubling around Lincoln's profile that set it apart. Collectors were shocked. Could a modern penny really be worth more than $1 million? The answer came soon after, when that very coin went up for private auction. Bidding started at $10,000. Within minutes, it climbed past $100,000. By the time the hammer fell, the final price hit $1.3 million, making it one of the most valuable modern Lincoln cents ever sold. And the best part? The owner almost spent it on a cup of coffee. It wasn't just the metal. It was a perfect storm of rarity, history, and timing. In 1996, the Denver Mint was churning out billions of pennies, but a few slipped through with transitional errors. Coins struck with leftover bronze planchets from previous years or dies slightly misaligned, creating subtle yet priceless differences. These tiny imperfections transformed a 1-cent coin into a once-in-a-lifetime fortune. Dealers began scouring rolls of 1996 D pennies, hoping lightning would strike twice. Coin forums lit up overnight. Photos, rumors, and blurry magnified images filled the internet. Here's the secret most people miss. The 1996 D penny worth a fortune usually shows a richer, red-brown tone compared to the bright copper of normal cents. The weight gives it away too. Regular pennies from 1996 weigh about 2.5 grams. The $1 million version? Closer to 3.1 grams, because of that old bronze alloy. That slight difference can change your entire life. But that's not all. Look closely at the D mint mark under Lincoln's portrait. On these rare coins, it often appears slightly tilted or doubled, as if the punch was struck twice. This subtle imperfection was caused by an aging die at the Denver Mint, one that wasn't supposed to be used but somehow made it into production. Only a handful escaped before the error was caught. One collector from Ohio shared his story online. He'd been searching through penny rolls from his local bank for years. After hearing about the 1996 D penny mystery, he decided to give his old stash another look. Hours turned into days. Just as he was about to give up, there it was, a slightly darker penny, the D mint mark off center. He waited. 3.1 grams exactly. That single coin paid off his mortgage and changed his life forever. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word of these 1996 D errors reignited interest in 1990s pennies, a series many collectors had ignored for years. Dealers began revising their price guides. Auction houses updated their records, and the humble Lincoln cent, once considered pocket change, was suddenly a millionaire maker again. How something so small, so ordinary, can hold a secret worth more than most cars, houses, even retirement plans. The 1996 D penny proved that treasure still hides in plain sight. It's not just in old collections or locked vaults. Sometimes it's sitting right in your change jar. If you want to find one, start by checking your pennies under good light. Look for a deeper tone, more bronze than bright copper. Check the mint mark for doubling or slanting. And if you have a digital scale, weigh it. Anything close to 3.1 grams deserves a closer look. Don't clean it, don't polish it, and definitely don't spend it. A small mistake like that could cost you $1 million. Collectors say this coin is like a ghost. Most people never see one, but those who do never forget it. The thrill of discovery, the disbelief, the rush of realizing a penny in your hand could change your life. That's what keeps treasure hunters searching every day. And here's the part that sends chills down your spine. Experts believe there could still be a few of these 1996 D bronze errors hiding out there, mixed in with ordinary pennies, sitting quietly in jars, drawers, and glove boxes across America, just waiting for someone like you to find them. So before you dismiss that old pile of change, take another look. Because one tiny, unassuming penny could be the key to your own $1 million story. That's right, a simple 2000 D Lincoln 1-cent penny, the kind you probably have sitting in a jar or hiding between your car seats, could be worth up to $1.4 million today. And the story behind it will make you look at every penny differently for the rest of your life. It all started when a Colorado collector, just an ordinary guy cleaning out his garage, noticed something strange about one of his old pennies. It was a 2000 D, nothing unusual about that, but the shine, the color, and the way the light hit Lincoln's face were off. He almost tossed it aside, until something inside told him to take a closer look. That tiny hesitation changed his life forever. When he brought it to a local dealer, the expert's hands actually trembled. He grabbed his magnifier, leaned in, and said 5 words that would change the man's life. You have no idea, do you? What he held wasn't just a penny. It was one of the rarest minting mistakes ever recorded in modern U.S. history. A 2000 D Lincoln penny struck with an unbelievable precision error that transformed it into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Collectors were stunned when the story hit the news. A coin made in the Denver Mint, one of the most common mints in the country, had somehow slipped through with an extraordinary flaw. Instead of being struck on the standard copper-plated zinc planchet, this particular penny was believed to have been struck on a transitional metal, a leftover experimental planchet from years prior. The result? A coin that doesn't just look different under a microscope, it feels different, sounds different, and carries the weight of a secret the mint never meant to reveal. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When word spread, dealers from across the country began calling, emailing, begging to see the coin in person. Offers poured in from collectors who had been hunting for decades. And when it finally went up for auction, the hammer dropped at an eye-watering $1.4 million. Imagine that. A coin you could have spent on a pack of gum, now worth more than most people's homes. The 2000 D penny story doesn't end there. After that sale, dozens of people started digging through their jars, safes, and forgotten drawers. Some found coins with minor variations, weak strikes, double dies, and strange off-center features. Most weren't worth much, but one or two showed the same mysterious composition that made the million-dollar coin famous. It sent shockwaves through the hobby. Suddenly, every 2000, D-penny became a potential jackpot. Dealers rushed to re-examine their old stock. Collectors lined up at coin shows with magnifiers and scales in hand, desperate to know if they held a miracle. One man even drove 8 hours just to have his coin weighed on an official scale, because if it weighed just a fraction off from normal, that could mean it was struck on the wrong metal. That's how intense the search became. Now, you might be wondering, how do you tell if your 2000 D-penny is the one worth a fortune? The truth is, the clues are subtle, but they're there, and once you know what to look for, you'll never forget them. First, start with the mint mark. You're looking for the clear, bold D under the year 2000 on the front. It has to be sharp, no fading, no weak strike. Then, look closely at Lincoln's face. On the rare million-dollar version, you'll notice an unusual clarity. His jawline and cheek have an almost mirror-like finish, with sharper detail than normal. Under good lighting, the fields, that's the flat space around Lincoln, appears slightly more golden, not the usual reddish tone of copper-plated zinc. That's the first clue this coin isn't ordinary. Next, pay attention to the sound. This is something old-school collectors swear by. Drop a normal 2000 D-penny gently on a hard surface. It gives a short, dull clink. Now drop one made of a different metal, and you'll hear it instantly. It rings higher, almost like a tiny bell. That metallic note could be the sound of $1 million in your hand. The weight. A standard 2000 D-penny weighs about 2.5 grams. The rare transitional errors can weigh anywhere from 3.1 to 3.2 grams, depending on the planchet used. That slight difference could mean you're holding a coin struck on the wrong metal. A rare, mint-level mishap that makes collectors go wild. And if you find one like that, you don't clean it. You don't polish it. You don't even breathe on it too hard. You get it professionally graded, because one tiny scratch can drop its value from $1 million to just a few hundred. That's how delicate these coins are. But here's the part that gives me chills every time. No one knows exactly how many of these 2000 D-penny errors exist. Some experts say fewer than 10. Others believe there could be a handful still hidden in circulation, waiting for someone, maybe you, to spot the difference. Every time you find an old penny, every time you reach into your pocket for change, that chance still exists. Think about that. You don't need to be rich. You don't need to own a safe full of rare coins. You just need sharp eyes, a curious mind, and the patience to look. Because treasures like this aren't buried in the ground anymore. They're hiding right in our wallets, our glove boxes, our kitchen drawers. Collectors were shocked when this coin first surfaced. Dealers went silent when they saw its condition. And the man who found it, he said he'd never look at a penny the same way again. So next time you come across a 2000 D Lincoln penny, don't just pass it over. Examine it. Hold it under the light. Weigh it if you can, because that tiny piece of copper-colored metal could be the key to a life-changing discovery, and it might just make you a millionaire. But when a collector took a closer look, he realized he was holding a small fortune. It was a 1982 D Lincoln 1-cent penny, and it sold for nearly $1.5 million. Now, at first glance, you'd probably think, come on, it's just a penny. But that's exactly what makes this story so unbelievable. This wasn't a rare gold coin or some ancient piece of treasure. It was an everyday penny that most people would walk right past. But buried in this tiny copper coin lies one of the most shocking minting mistakes in modern American history. It all started in 1982, a chaotic year for the U.S. Mint. Inflation was high, copper prices were climbing, and the government made a big decision: switch from solid copper pennies to a cheaper copper-coated zinc version. Simple enough, right? But what happened during that transition still stuns collectors to this day. Somewhere in the Denver Mint, a few leftover copper planchets, the metal discs used to make coins, accidentally got mixed in with the new zinc ones. When the die struck those old copper blanks, a few genuine 1982 D pennies were born that weren't supposed to exist. To the naked eye, they looked like any other penny, but they were heavier and worth a fortune. And that's how this story begins. Point one man, an average collector from the Midwest, was sorting through his loose change one evening. He wasn't rich. He wasn't even a serious coin expert. He just enjoyed the hunt. But that night, one penny caught his attention. The color, the tone, something about it felt different. He weighed it out of curiosity, expecting the usual 2.5 grams. Instead, it came in at 3.1 grams. He thought his scale was broken, but it wasn't. What he had in his hand was one of the rarest modern pennies ever made, the 1982 D copper small date penny. And when it was authenticated and later auctioned, the bids were absolutely wild. Dealers flew in from across the country. Collectors whispered that this might be the only one of its kind. And when the hammer finally dropped, the coin sold for a jaw-dropping $1.5 million. It all comes down to one small detail most people miss: the difference between this small date and large date design and the weight of the metal itself. The 1982 penny was struck in both copper and zinc, and with two date styles. But the Denver Mint was only supposed to make the zinc version. Yet somehow, a few copper small date versions slipped out. The combination of the wrong metal and the rare design created one of the most valuable Lincoln cents in history. Collectors were stunned. Dealers couldn't believe it. Some even questioned if it was real until it was verified by top grading services. This wasn't a rumor or a myth. It was a confirmed, 1 in a billion minting mistake. And here's where the story takes another twist. Experts believe there could be more of these pennies still out there, sitting unnoticed in jars, drawers, or old coffee cans across America. Just think about that. Somewhere out there, a penny worth over $1 million might be hiding in plain sight. But here's what makes this story even more thrilling. Most people wouldn't recognize one if they had it. The color looks almost identical to any other penny. You can only tell by looking closely at the date and weighing it carefully. If it says 1982 D and weighs around 3.1 grams, you could be staring at a life-changing discovery. Now, imagine this. You're sitting at your kitchen table, sorting through old coins from a jar your parents kept. You pull out a handful of pennies. Most are dull, ordinary, maybe worth face value. But one shines just a little different. You place it on a small digital scale, and the number flashes, 3.1 grams. Your heart starts racing. Could it be? Could you be holding the same kind of coin that sold for $1.5 million? Collectors say that moment is pure adrenaline, the kind that makes your palms sweat and your mind race. Because in that instant, you realize that something so ordinary could change your life forever. But what happened after that first discovery shocked everyone. Once word got out, people began checking their change everywhere. Pawn shops, thrift stores, coin rolls from banks. Suddenly, everyone wanted to find the $1 million penny. Dealers began offering rewards for confirmed finds. Coin forums exploded with stories of near misses and false alarms. Some people even melted down old pennies just to test the metal composition and, sadly, destroyed what might have been rare treasures. But the truth is, the odds are slim, incredibly slim. Only a handful of these 1982 D copper pennies are believed to exist. But that's what makes it so exciting. The dream is alive because it's possible, and that's the magic of coin collecting. It's not just about metal and numbers. It's about history, mystery, and the thrill of the hunt. Every coin tells a story, and this one tells a story of change, error, and pure luck. Now, if you want to know how to identify this exact coin, here's what you need to do. Grab a magnifying glass and look for a 1982 D date. The D stands for Denver Mint. Next, check the size of the numbers. If the 2 in the date is slightly smaller and more delicate, you may have the small date variety. Finally, weigh it carefully. A normal 1982 D zinc penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. But if your penny tips the scale at around 3.1 grams, stop everything. That's copper. And don't make the rookie mistake of cleaning it or polishing it. That can destroy its value instantly. If you suspect you've found one, store it safely, handle it gently, and get it authenticated by a trusted grading company. Because the truth is, these $1 million mistakes are still out there, and every collector, from beginner to expert, dreams of being the next one to find it. This isn't just about coins. It's about possibility. The idea that a simple penny in your pocket could be worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. That's what keeps the hunt alive. So before you spend that loose change, take a moment to look. That little 1982 D penny in your hand might not just buy you a cup of coffee.